Hello everybody and welcome back to another Minecraft World War II build tutorial, and today we are going to be doing the PanzerKampfwagen VIII Maus. I'm sure I don't need to introduce the mouse to many of you, but I will be giving a explanation as to what the mouse tank is during this video. But before I start talking about the vehicle as much, I should probably, explain where I've been actually for like the, last 2 weeks. I took a little bit of a break. I needed a little bit of a break. I didn't have the motivation to make any videos. Making vehicles is one thing. Making the videos is another. Sometimes it just sometimes you just don't feel it. So I needed a little bit of time with myself. And in the midst of that time, I've done a bunch of things like build more tanks anyway. I've obtained a couple of games I may make some content on, hopefully sooner rather than later, but again, it comes down to motivation to make videos. So, yeah, this is going to be a little bit longer of a video anyway, since this is like 40 minutes-ish, if I remember the number correctly. I can't actually see the timer right now. For like the rest of the video, I can't really see the timer right now because I have the recording voiceover window for Hit Film up right now, because that's what I'm doing my editing on, and that's where I do my post-recording commentary like I'm doing now. So I have the little recording window up, and it's blocking my vision of the timer. So I'm just going to go off of what I can see on my on the bar here, the viewer bar, and I'll just sort of time it according to what I'm seeing in front of me. So, the mouse. I figured I would treat you all to something famous and something that I think would catch a lot of attention when I came back. And so I decided to provide you all with the mouse. I love this design, and when I built this mouse tank, I built this to be the mouse tank tutorial that destroys everyone else's. I wanted my mouse to be the best. No one to top me. I want to be the best. I want my mouse to stay the best. I want mine to have that interior, which this does. I modeled mine mostly off of War Thunder's interior model. A little bit of World of Tanks in there as well. But I think I mostly did War Thunder's layout, I think. I don't remember which one I actually modeled off of completely at the moment. But if I can think correctly, I think I may have modeled mine more off of the... Like, I think I got the more of the module placement ideas from War Thunder. And I think I put the crew placement in according to that of World of Tanks. So I think my mouse is actually a bit of a healthy medium between the two, but I don't remember exactly how I did it, seeing as how I built the mouse months ago. And yeah, so there's going to be some bits and pieces here inspired from both War Thunder and World of Tanks. But I think what's just great about my mouse build overall, or at least what I love about it, is the fact that it has an interior at all. Because, you know, it mildly disappoints me that I'm the only one that does interiors on YouTube for these sorts of things. At the same time, it doesn't, because I like it being something that's exclusive to me. And I'm not saying that everyone else should be doing interiors. I just think you learn to appreciate the vehicles more if you have the ability to make an interior and you do it. If you can do it, then give it a shot, and you may end up appreciating it a lot more. Now, for some people that you may watch on YouTube that make tank tutorials, if they're doing an open-top vehicle like, say, an M10 GMC, M36 Jackson, M18 Hellcat, just as some examples right there, those are open-top vehicles, so you're kind of morally compelled to have to make somewhat of an interior anyway. But even then, when some people do, they sort of cut the corners and only do what's visible from the turret in. And sometimes will completely ignore the rest of the inside of the vehicle. But the Maus, I did not cut any corners. This thing, I did everything I possibly could to make this thing the best it could be. Because I built it to be the best. And I hope that it is, by everyone else's opinion besides mine. I spent hours, actually I spent a couple of days working on this, tweaking different design aspects, finding the perfect shapes, finding the perfect mixtures of materials to make it look like a mouse and not too overly dramatized. So, it has the interior, which, actually I should say this ahead of time, if you're going to be building this thing in, if you're going to try to build this thing in survival, one thing, I love you. Second, God help you, because you're going to, well, if you're going to do it exactly the way I have it built, I hope that you have some clever way of finding a bunch of netherite, because there's going to be a fair bit of netherite usage on the inside of the vehicle. Not too much, but there will be a lot of netherite around the turret ring. The gun breech is going to have a bit of netherite on it, and I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else inside the vehicle that actually uses that. I don't think so. I think those are the only areas that use netherite. Anyway, though, besides that, most of the other materials for this vehicle are pretty cheap. So a metric ton of, you know, smelted stone, in order to make the exterior as it should be. Or don't. You can, I guess, use cobblestone or whatever to build it and mix up the texture of the vehicle if you so like, but this is the more of the refined look of the vehicle. And yeah, besides the netherite, it's mostly a cheap vehicle to build. You just need a bunch of different bits of stone. You're going to need a healthy supply of iron for hoppers as the optics. For the inside of the turret, you're going to need that. You're going to need some blast furnaces, I think. I don't think those are pretty expensive, though. It's been a while since I played survival, so I don't even remember how expensive blast furnaces are. So those, you're going to need those. You're going to need, what, a observer, jukebox, and a couple other things, a couple of dispensers, but besides the more functional blocks, everything's cheap. So you can probably build this thing fairly simply, and you can probably find a good replacement for, the netherite as well if you so desired. Like you could probably use blackstone, and blackstone would probably make for a pretty good replacement for the netherite on the turret ring and on the breech. If you don't feel like having to do the grinding for netherite, because as I've heard, and, take what I'm saying here as from someone that has never played the newer versions of Minecraft in survival, because I haven't. I've heard that it is pretty expensive to get netherite plentifully. But besides that, it should be fairly simple to build. Anyway, looking at the viewer bar right now, we've actually already gotten through a fair portion of the video already. I'd say about a third of the way through now. So time's actually kind of escaping me. So I should probably read to you a little bit about the mouse tank and educate those of you who don't understand what the mouse tank is. Now, a brief summary to you that don't understand what the mouse tank is, before I read this dedicated article on the mouse tank from Encyclopedia.com, who I have spoken about before on my channel, that I reference them fairly frequently on my channel when I'm researching vehicles and building them. I also have spoken about vehicles using their website before. So before I read their post on the mouse tank, I would like to give a very brief summary to those of you who don't know what the mouse tank is. So the mouse, or the PanzerKampfwagen VIII, in German, is a very late war tank during World War II, which was developed earlier in the war but didn't get produced till the latter end. Only one was ever built. There was a hull or a chassis of the second one built, never got finished. The Maus tank is still around today. Physically. The tank does still exist. You can still go see it. In fact, it is in... The only surviving Maus tank is in Russia, in the Kubinka Tank Museum. That, and I think they also have a Sturmtiger there, as well as some other things. But the Maus tank does still exist. The interior of the vehicle is not complete. In fact, I think the tank that is at Kubinka is actually built on the unfinished chassis of the Maus, because there's nothing on the inside. The turret has some things inside of it, has some of the furnishings in it, but I don't think it's... I think it may be the turret of the original Maus on the unfinished chassis, but I don't remember. I remember that Nicholas Moran, the chieftain, I remember that he did a video where he got inside the Maus tank for a World of Tanks inside the Chieftain's Hatch series, where Nicholas Moran will go into many different vehicles and explore them and show you different things and explain to you what was what, why certain things were on certain vehicles, so on and so forth. Very educational, very interesting to watch, very fun. Unfortunately, they don't come out with content all that often with it, but it's fun to watch. In fact, the last one I watched was, and I actually don't know if that was part of World of Tanks series or if that was part of his personal series, because the thing is, he does it, Nicholas Moran, the chieftain, will do it not only for World of Tanks, but he also does it on his own personal channel, where he will go and explore vehicles on his own channel in his free time. But he does it especially for World of Tanks' YouTube channel. And I think the last one I watched was him exploring, which tank was it? It was a Swedish vehicle. It may have been the Stridsvagn 74. I don't remember. Actually, I don't know if he did the 74. You know what? No, I'm actually kind of confused. I don't remember which one it was, but I know it was a Swedish vehicle that he checked out. That's the last one that I watched. But anyway, besides that, you can still see the Maus tank in real life. You can see the sheer size of it. I know someone who has seen the Maus tank in person, showed me some photos of his family next to the vehicle, and just, oh boy, you don't understand how colossal this thing is until you have seen it in person, or have at least seen someone that you know next to it, and then you have a pretty good reference point of like, okay, yeah, that's a big tank. The Sherman's a big tank, actually, because if you go and you see a Sherman, M4A3 E8, like something as simple as that, if you see an E8 and you stand next to it, I've said this before on other videos, how video games make the vehicles feel a little bit smaller than they should be. That's the thing, though. Once you're next to a Sherman, you think the Sherman is colossal. I don't even know I don't know what it would be like to stand next to a Maus. I have been near Shermans. I have been near Stugs. I have been near an M60. I can't imagine what it's like to be near a Maus tank, and I'm only hoping that one day I'll get the opportunity to go see it. But yeah, I don't know how much more I can how much more I can stretch out this little statement that you can go see the Maus. Anyway, let me read from Tank Encyclopedia's post here, and just to read to you what their research has said. The info about the Maus tank really isn't that cloudy, as opposed to many other German tank projects, or just German projects during the war to begin with. The Maus isn't as cloudy as the rest of them. It's more well known the information about it is more well known. In fact, even some information about planned upgrades for the Maus, are more well known than for any other vehicle. Like, we have info about an upgrade for the Maus called the Maus II upgrade, which Tank Encyclopedia also has an article on that, which is a lot is copied from the standard Maus article, with minor differences for the Maus II. But I'm not going to talk about the Maus II right now because I actually have a build of the Maus II, which is going to get its own tutorial at some point in the future. So right now we're just going to do the standard Maus, and the Maus II will follow in its own time. Don't know how many views that video will get because it's not the Maus, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised by that. Anyway, let me read this. So, this section of the article is titled Origins. So, what it says here is, following the invasion of the Soviet Union on the 22nd of June 1941, the German army had quickly gained huge swaths of territory and destroyed, captured, or killed large quantities of Soviet troops. Supplies and equipment of Soviet troops, supplies and equipment. Sorry, I'm a bad reader. I'm also tired. 2 cups of coffee apparently isn't enough. Or it's too much. Someone help me. Yet despite this success, the German army was unable to deliver a knockout blow against the Soviets or to capture Moscow. By January 1942, with Moscow saved by an increasingly stubborn Soviet defense, ain't that right? It was clear that the conflict on the Eastern Front was going to be very long and very bloody, as Soviet tanks were increasing quality. As Soviet tanks of increasing quality, armor, and firepower started to reach the front lines through 1942, it was clear that in order for German forces to maintain an edge in tank combat, they would need a tank that was bigger, more heavily armored, and better than anything that had gone before. There was also the need for a heavy tank capable of assaulting heavily defended enemy positions, and since nothing in the German arsenal in spring 1942 was capable of meeting these requirements, long-term plans were being put into place. The origins of the Maus began around this time as, on March 5th, 1942, a directive was issued to Friedkrupp AG of Essen for the development of a new heavy tank in the 100-ton class to replace the previous concept of a 72-ton tank, which originated as a project by Rheinmetall, started in 1938. The goal was to have an operational trial for this 100-ton vehicle in the shortest possible time, and to be ready to show it off in the spring of 1943. 2 weeks later, on the 21st of March, Dr. Ferdinand Porsche was given a separate and independent contract for exactly the same goal, a 100-ton tank. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second. What it mentions just here about how, Friedkrupp was given a directive and then Porsche was given a directive. This sort of thing is what references the rivalry between the E-series vehicles, like the E100 and the Maus. Specifically the E100 and the Maus. This is where the, where the rivalry of those two platforms comes into play. And for anyone who wonders why the Germans developed the E100 and the Maus, like why not one or the other, well, it's because they were developed by 2 different companies, and both companies were trying to make something, they were both trying to make something as good as they could to meet the requirements that were asked of them. Personally, out of the 2 vehicles, I think that the E100 was 100% better. I stand by that statement as well. I think the E100 was a much better platform. I don't think that the idea of a 100-ton super heavy tank was a good idea to begin with whatsoever. I don't think there's any real way you can justify the use of a vehicle that big, and I think I'm entitled to have this opinion as well because I've been studying tanks for, many years now, at least 8 years now, and I do think maybe 7 to 8 years I've been doing this, I think my opinion does mean something. But there's no need for a vehicle that heavy. There's too many mechanical issues that come with that at that time. Nowadays, you can make a 100-ton vehicle, and I think the issues wouldn't be as pronounced as they would be in the 40s, because this sort of technology was advancing well ahead of well ahead of its time. The complexity of the vehicles, of their systems, and so on and so forth was way too ahead of the time. And you can see that especially when you look at Porsche's Tiger with the electro transmission. Like, these sorts of things are well ahead of their time. Or we can talk about how the Panthers, specifically the Panther G, which got it the most, was being outfitted with night vision optics. Yeah, are you starting to see what I'm saying here? Like, these are things that are coming out in the late 40s. And it took a little while for us to actually get a grasp. It took a while for anyone to get a real grasp of how to utilize night vision on vehicles efficiently. But Germany was determined, apparently. And German tank evolution was just way ahead of anything else, really. They focused a lot on it. That and, you know, aircraft. And there are other impressive weapons of war that the Germans made, like the Sturmgewehr 44. But I don't know. The Sturmgewehr doesn't impress me as much as any of the armored vehicles or aircraft or so on and so forth, because guns, small arms are complex in design and do require a bunch of testing. But I don't think it would be that difficult to design the Sturmgewehr. I don't think it would be that... It's not that difficult to design the automatic weapons. Because automatic weapons are based off of blowback. In most cases, automatic weapons are based off of the blowback that is sent throughout the gun after a first shot. So the gas is sent through the gun to push the bolt back and cycle around in. And you need it to be tuned just right so that it doesn't blow itself up and it doesn't fail. It doesn't fail to cycle. So it has to be the right. It has to be done just right so that the weapon can cycle around after a shot, and so on and so forth. But these things I don't think are as mechanically complex as trying to make a operational 100-ton vehicle with, you know, the rapid evolution of combustion engines being used on heavy vehicles then. Like, combustion engines weren't new, but they certainly weren't as refined as they are now. And and not even just the engines. Also look at just transmissions. Transmissions were a big thing to try to, you know, you needed a transmission that was just as good, if not better than the engine, in order for the vehicle to be able to function and drive properly at any decent speed. Look at the Panthers. You know, the earlier Panthers. They are renowned for having faulty transmissions. And if the transmission's no good, everything else in the vehicle can be good. You can have a super powerful engine. You can have a state-of-the-art gun that can penetrate literally anything that's going to fight for the next year. At least by, you know, the arms race standards of World War II. You can have a gun which is going to be formidable for at least a year. But if you can't make the darn thing move, if you have a transmission that's breaking down every 200 meters, then it's not going to be worth it. And so you've got to be really skilled at what you're doing. You have to pay a lot of attention to how you're building these vehicles and make sure that everything is as well tuned as it can be so that the vehicle works. Because the thing is, there's a lot more precision engineering that's involved with making these big, brutish pieces of metal than I think most people give them credit for. These things have to be these things require design that I think, in my opinion, is even more intricate than designing that of a supercar or a hypercar. these things impress me more than anything Tesla can make. And I say that with confidence, and I say that with wholehearted belief, because these things, yes, they're big, yes, they're clunky, yes, they're clumsy, and they're stubborn as heck. But that's not the point. These things are built with purpose, and they're not just built with purpose of transporting someone here or there in an economical way and, you know, eco-friendly way. Rather to the contrary, especially in the case of the mouse. There is no eco-friendly behavior of a mouse cruising across the Eastern European plains or fields. There's nothing good about that. But these things have to be designed in such a way that the armor is in its peak condition, that the armor is, well, it is cast and rolled and formed in such intricate ways. Making the armor is not as simple as just casting a shape, because that breeds its own problems if you cast armor. Armor is a very sensitive topic when it comes to making an armored vehicle, because if you make it wrong on a micro scale, there can be cracks in the armor which will compromise its structural integrity to such a point where you have thrown away the lives of the crew operating the vehicle. This is something that doesn't necessarily need to concern you know, supercar developers, because they focus on making vehicles that are fast, not always fuel efficient, but they're mostly flashy. And they're not building them to take a hit from, say, an 85mm gun, or a 76, or a 152. They're not building these little things that take hits from something as big as those rounds. They're making something to be flashy, and then they charge an arm and a leg for the vehicle. Well, obviously, because these are high-quality vehicles. But anyway, I'm going on a big spiel here. These things are a lot more interesting than any car ever will be. But anyway, it's time for me to start bringing this video to a close. So I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed the mouse. I had a lot of fun building this. I had a lot of fun making the tutorial for it. And I hope that you will enjoy my mouse for a long time to come. If there's anything you'd like to see me build, please leave a comment in the comment sections, and I will be sure to respond to you. Come join my Discord, hang out with me and the rest of the community, where you can also leave requests there and hang out with me. But anyway, all that being said, I love you all. God bless you all. I hope to see you all again in the future. Stay safe. Yet again, God bless you. And I will catch you all next time. Goodbye.